Hello again. This is another question that I received from, hang on a minute, similar kind of question. I've received a few of these this year, 2025. Um, One of them, sorry, I should have had this at the ready. They wanted about they were asking about my experience in finding contract or part-time roles. And then they're explaining that they're about to wrap up and they're looking for other work. Um, Somebody else asked me pretty much the identical question last week, and they were made redundant. And um, they're just wanting to get my insights into this sort of territory. Um, in fact, that person was asking about the UTS course as well. And that person, I've never met them. I only know them from LinkedIn, really. But um, this territory, I guess I'm kind of, well, everyone's unique, but I've kind of made conscious choices um, to work as a freelancer because I tend to enjoy the autonomy, maybe, of just doing project type work. So, just back in the day, in the 90s, I was doing casual work, casual teaching, and then I did a few kind of contracts that were kind of year long or 2 year long. And then I strung about 14 years of those together. But then I started doing freelance. I got an ABN, and then I realized you're actually a lot more nimble and you can be quite responsive if you have an ABN, a freelancer, in other words. So I comfortably in the, how do I refer to it? The zero zeros or the tens, 2010. During that time, I comfortably worked as a casual at various universities, mainly Macquarie University, but then I was also doing freelance work. And so I also put together a portfolio. So once I put together a portfolio, that made a huge difference because I could put myself out there and I didn't actually consider a lot of the work that I'd done. I kept records of everything that I'd worked on, but I kind of was a bit shy maybe about putting stuff out there in self-promotion. It wasn't something I had normally done. And then I got a few kind of little kind of reminders or little indicators. And I thought, oh, yeah, you don't actually know how wonderful I am, what I can do for you to solve your training and development problems and the purpose and the role of a learning resource, for example. A lot of people still back then weren't on board with e-learning, especially ironically corporates. So my advice for, and this is for recent graduates or people that are doing the learning design course or my colleague or these random strangers, is in order to get find work, that the biggest thing that helped me along was just having a portfolio of items. Some of them were a bit ordinary, some of them were really quite fabulous. I was very proud of. So I just sort of curated it, and then I kind of, because I work across sectors, I structured my portfolio school based. But then when I say school based, some of my resources were for learners and end user, a cold term, I know, but um, they were for school students, but then they were all, some of the resources were also for school teachers. So two different channels. And then, so I structured that schools, university, higher ed, corporate, and community. And so, and then I used the STAR method that some people at, when I worked for O10, they encouraged the STAR, STAR, the situation, the task, the actions that I took, and the result. So I just found that that basic structure was, it made it easier to tell a really clear story as to how I might be able to help someone. So once I'd done did that systematically with a few projects, or quite a few projects, I found this is when I first joined LinkedIn, which is about 15 years ago, I think. People would contact me, random people from TAFE and from corporate and from wherever, and I got paid work from that because they could click and they could check out what I could do. And I thought, oh, how wonderful for my ego. Um, and on a professional level, it was good because they could check me out without me being there through my portfolio. And I think one of the categories was vocational education. So there's different ways to kind of collect and collate one's portfolio items. But yeah, I definitely would encourage that because it provides evidence of what you can do or what I could do. So that's my number one piece of advice. If you don't have a lot of portfolio items, just invent them. Just to take a considered approach. There's lots of online tools that are available, and you can piece together something. But you might be able to create something for your current workplace, or But if you're developing materials, just keep a record. Sometimes it's not appropriate, and because of corporate in confidence, that type of thing. So sometimes a screenshot is enough to tell the story. You can't link to the actual resource. So it depends on your approach. But yeah, definitely a portfolio. I haven't updated mine that much as such, but I'm not particularly worried as such. Also, another thing is all of the most of the freelance work that I have obtained over the last 20 years or so has been 100% word of mouth. Or not 100%, maybe 90% word of mouth. The little 10% was those random people that contacted me through LinkedIn and through my portfolio. But yeah, the bulk of my work, people would just ring me up. Hello, I got your name from so and so. We've got this budget for whatever. Do you also do XYZ? Sometimes I would say, no, I don't, you know, web development or, complex video production, that sort of thing. But sometimes I work and collaborate with other professionals, a little project team. So um, I guess one of the things that I have a few years running. The majority of my income came from my freelance work, but if you're just starting out, it's a little bit daunting. And you can still get casual work or short contract. You don't need an ABN, you don't need to be a freelancer, but I guess there's more flexibility sometimes in finding that work. So there's been a huge discussion over many, many years about the casualisation of workplaces, especially higher education. And so I've certainly suffered under that, but I've also taken advantage of that. So I see it as a bit of a double-edged sword. And I've kind of mostly been satisfied in my work as a casual just because of the flexibility. So in terms of this is a very long-winded answer, but in terms of finding work, I just think there's such huge value in keeping your professional network kind of up to date. Sometimes I've offered to meet with people just for a coffee, and then they think, "Oh, I'm only meeting with them to find work," and it hasn't really gone well. And I think, well, I guess it's that spectrum of, personal relationship, professional relationship, you know, meeting for a chat because you're absolutely desperate for work, handing on your CV just in case, I guess it's different. I tend to be respectful and I tend to minimize my contact if somebody has kind of maybe got the wrong impression of me, which they have over the years. I minimize my contact with them. I don't want to work with them. So I kind of feel like I'm quite grateful for being in that position of saying no to work, essentially, because it's not like it's all all kind of roses and it's all positive. Sometimes these projects are challenging, or the client is not as organized as they think they are. And because D, capital D for design, it's a subjective territory. And so it's not like your expectation is going to match the client's expectation. You have to negotiate. And sometimes there's lots of talk and planning, and still that negotiation doesn't quite match up. And so managing expectations is a huge skill in this territory, which taps back to the diversity of projects that might be available. Some are good and satisfying, some are dull and still satisfying, some are 28 hours worth, some are 6 months. I don't know, it's quite diverse. But in actually to find work, I've just found that my professional network is and word of mouth has gone a long way. And then that's linked to one's professional reputation, which is linked to having a portfolio. So um, there's also that kind of, because it's more competitive now, there's more learning design people. In fact, some of if you have a qualification, that might be, get you the edge on, someone that doesn't. So I currently do not have a qualification in learning design. So, but having said that, it is valuable, because it demonstrates your dedication. I guess a good comparison point is when I did IT certificate for in multimedia in the 90s. I didn't necessarily become a multimedia developer, but I was managing teams of media specialists. So I guess it's that kind of what good is a qualification? When I did Master of Arts in Media Arts and Production at UTS in 2008, that ushered in a whole era, and I'm still in that era of educational video production because a lot of the people that I was enrolled with, they pursued careers in film and television production, whereas I am quite happy with my, educational resource development. So I saw it as a huge value in enhancing my learning design. And then because I do a lot of work for universities, my qualification was really quite reassuring for them. So I guess another way to kind of find work, is lifelong learning and study and training and qualifications. Even a micro credential or a short course offers evidence that you are serious and you've got skills and knowledge, you've got a good attitude. I feel like I need to wrap up. This is quite a long response, but I just felt the need to answer these. And I'll send this link to the video to those people that asked me that question. Um, so if you've got any sort of questions about learning design, send them through, especially the subjective ones or the tricky ones, because you know, I guess I want to draw upon my professional experience across. I think it's all sectors. I would say boldly. I've kind of developed materials for quite a broad spectrum of learners. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for your time. No screenshots and no screen sharing with this one. Thank you.